Everyone, I've done a video like this in the past, but I figured it's worth a good refresher on why you should not wait for a price lower than the current price to buy Bitcoin. So this is a mistake a lot of people make, which is at any given price, Bitcoin seems expensive. I mean, that's the nature of Bitcoin is people tend to want to buy it when they're excited, which means when it tends to be near all-time highs, like it has been, that's when people sort of want to get on the train when the train's going fast. And then, but they don't want to get on at the very peak, tip top, highest price. So they always want to they're always hoping that Bitcoin will come back down some small amount to let them buy at a discount so that they psychologically feel good about the discount they're getting. And then, of course, the hope is that it keeps going back up. So most of the time, when people tell me, they're going to buy Bitcoin at a price of X, that price of X is less than 5% below the current price. So back in the day, it's at 67,000 and people are like 65. If it gets to 65 again, I'm going to buy some. Back even before that, when it's at 42, people are like, hey, if it ever gets to 40, I'm definitely going to buy some. One second. So I understand the sentiment, but it makes no sense from an investment perspective. And here's the reason why. Because you have to understand the risk trade-off you're making is, so let's say you want it at a price that's last night I posted a video and it's it was 88,000, and let's say, okay, you only want a price of 85, like just you want a few $1,000 discount. All right, well, a price of 85,000 compared to 88,000 is less than a 4% discount. Now, chances are we could easily see a 400% price run in the next few years. So if you're waiting for a 4% price correction and you're willing to miss out on a 400% upside, that means you are betting against yourself with 100 to 1 odds. Now, sure, you could see a 4% price correction. It's absolutely possible. But are you really willing to risk 100 to 1 odds that you're going to get a price correction down to your number before it takes off and leaves you behind? So almost never has anyone thought that through when in fact, I've never encountered anyone who's thought that through when they pick a number and say, I'll buy it at X. Um, and every time I've experienced somebody who has picked a number and waits to buy it until X, the price never hits that number. And so they get left behind and they're stuck purchasing not at a 5% or 4% or 3% discount. They're stuck purchasing at a 20, 30, 40% increase over what they could have got it at, because eventually they just can't wait anymore. They're like, okay, it's blatantly clear I'm never going to get my number. Now I can either stay off the Bitcoin train forever, or I can get on at a much higher number than I could have before, which is what typically happens. People are like, it's down at 67, it's 67,000. This was back, a few months ago, they're going to buy it at 65. Well, then it goes up into the 70s. And then when it runs recently into the 80s, they're stuck buying in the 80s because it's clear that they're never going to buy at their $65,000 number. So it just doesn't make any sense. The math never makes sense to do that. So when should you buy Bitcoin? The answer is as soon as conceivably possible with whatever capital you have available. So if your paycheck hits and you have some extra money, buy it right then. It doesn't matter if the price is 88,000, 85,000, 90,000. You should not let the price of Bitcoin dictate your buying decisions, because that means you're trying to time the market. And if there's a single rule in investing, it's do not time the market. Time in the market beats time in the market. That means the longer you own the asset, the better off you are. Trying to time when you buy the asset is almost always going to leave you a loser. So just don't do it. It's virtually always better. Whatever the price is, go ahead and buy. If the price comes down, well, then come up with some more money from somewhere else and buy more of it. Because hey, it's on sale, and never a bad time to buy some more when it's on sale. But if you know you're going to buy a certain amount of Bitcoin with a certain amount of cash, I would say just buy it. Put in the order, hit buy, be done with it. You're guaranteed to outsmart yourself if you try to do it any other way. And probably one of the most popular examples of this is Dave Portnoy, who out there on Twitter says, the price was in the 50s, $50,000 ish range, and he said, hey, if the price ever goes to 40,000, I'm going to buy between $5 million and $10 million of Bitcoin. So his net worth is like, something like 150 million. So he's going to buy, he's positive. He's going to buy 150, 5 million to $10 million of Bitcoin as soon as the price, gets in the low 40s. Well, guess what? Here we are at 90,000. The price has more than doubled. He could have made from 45 to 90. He could have doubled his money. He could have made $5 or $10 million on top of the $5 or $10 million he was planning to invest. But he's still waiting for $40,000. And guess what? He'll probably be waiting for $40,000 for the rest of his life. It is highly unlikely he will ever buy Bitcoin at $40,000. The other example, which this happens all the time, is back in 2002, all these people were waiting for a price of 13,800. They had all done their math. They had all figured out that 13,800 was the magic price to buy Bitcoin. And they were all certain it was going to hit that price. And they had their buy orders all lined up and they were all ready to buy, $13,800 Bitcoin. Well, I knew that was a fool's errand. So I was buying all the way down. I was buying in the 20s. I was buying in the high teens. The lowest I ever bought Bitcoin in the 2022 cycle was like 15,700 something. I mean, I was just buying, buying, buying. Like as soon as I could free up money and get liquidity, I was buying more Bitcoin because I knew that we didn't know where the bottom was in 2022. Nobody did. And the bottom ended up being at 15,500. So and the price bounced around for a long time between 15,500 and 17,000. So all these people are waiting for 14,000, and all of them could have had as much Bitcoin as they wanted between 15,500 and 17,000 for months. Like 4 months. It was forever. Like for 4 months, they could have bought as much Bitcoin as they could possibly want below $17,000, but they just had to wait. They had to wait for $14,000 Bitcoin. They just couldn't bear to buy $16,000 Bitcoin. They just had to have $14,000 Bitcoin. Well, guess what? They're never going to get $14,000 Bitcoin. Up here at $90,000, it is extremely unlikely in the entire history, the remaining history of the human race, that they will ever buy a Bitcoin for $14,000. It's not going to happen. So don't let Bitcoin leave you behind. It almost certainly, if you try to outsmart it, it will outsmart you. And just buy whatever you're going to buy of Bitcoin. Just go ahead and buy it. Do not wait for the dip. If there is a dip, you should buy the dip, but do not wait for a dip because you might never get it. And the probabilities are 100%. The probabilities are massively against you for getting your dip as compared to leaving you behind. You're just way more likely to get left behind than you are to get the dip. All right, one more thing is some people try to trade Bitcoin with leverage. I doubt anybody that ever watches this video is, sitting on BitMEX buying Bitcoin with 5 or 10x leverage, but as a bonus, I'm gonna include it in this video. One second. Okay, so if you go on, it's not worth doing this, but if you go on CoinGlass or somewhere like that, which is a mobile app, CoinGlass. You can see the positions people have and the prices at which they get liquidated. So what happens is the price will be going up, 85, 86, 89, 87, 80, 89, 90, whatever. And somebody will open a long position, meaning a leveraged long position at 85,000. Just absolutely positive. Or this was what I was watching last night. So there was a bunch of people when the price was above 90,000 that had leveraged long positions at $87,000. What that means is that they borrowed money at 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x, sometimes as much as 100x, they're betting that the price will go up, but if the price goes down, they get liquidated. So if they're betting, 20 to 1 odds, then a 5% price correction wipes them out completely and they lose all their money. They lose their position entirely. It's called getting liquidated. And so you'll see this, that as Bitcoin's price moves around, people keep trying to outsmart Bitcoin. It starts going up, so they put in leveraged long positions below the current price, betting it will never come back down. And as soon as those prices all get leveraged up, and you got $123 million bet that it'll never touch $87,000 again, well, magically Bitcoin decides to take a little dip and wipe out all those traders before it goes back above 90. And then you see the same thing. As soon as it starts dipping, all these people do leverage short positions, which means they pile up bets that the price is going to go down and it's never going to come back to, call it $91,000. So as soon as Bitcoin is done completely wrecking everybody down there at $87,000, Then it climbs back up and it wrecks everybody that's above $90,000. So that's not really relevant to anybody watching this video because I doubt anyone who watches my videos is ever using leverage. You can't even use leverage on a platform like Coinbase. Not in the way these traders are. I think you have to do it on something like BitMEX or something like that. But um, these people who are confident they are outsmarting Bitcoin, Bitcoin always outsmarts them. I mean, no matter what price it is that they don't think it's going to touch because they're going to get liquidated, I promise you, Bitcoin is going to spend at least 5 seconds touching that price just so they get liquidated. And then it's like the price dips, all the longs get liquidated. Then the price climbs, all the shorts get liquidated. Then people start piling in leveraged longs below, at 90,000. Then Bitcoin dips down and wipes all those people out. And then all the people who are leveraged short at 93,000, well, then Bitcoin goes up and wipes all those people out. So if you are trying to outsmart Bitcoin, Bitcoin absolutely is going to outsmart you. And planning to buy Bitcoin at a price lower than the current price, if you're, again, we're sitting at 90,000. If you're like, well, Joel said last night, yeah, I should buy it at 88, but it's not 88,000 anymore. So here at $90,000, I'm going to wait till it gets to 88. Well, I mean, it might, but chances are it'll just leave you behind. If you're trying to outsmart Bitcoin, Bitcoin is going to outsmart you. It happens all the time over and over and over. People get wrecked. People get left behind. Thankfully, if you're not trading with leverage, you can't get wrecked. I mean, like the price dips, so what? You just ignore it and it comes back. Doesn't matter. But if you're trading with leverage, which you should not be, but if you are, then when the price hits a certain price, you get liquidated, you lose all your money and it's gone. And that's just happening constantly because people keep trying to outsmart Bitcoin, and you should just not you should not do that. So thankfully, Coinbase doesn't let you do that. So if you have your Bitcoin on Coinbase or Bitkey or whatever, you don't have to worry about it. You're not trading with leverage. You're not doing anything stupid anyway because they won't even let you. But on a lot of the offshore exchanges like BitMEX or Binance or things like that, you can do all sorts of crazy leverage stuff and get wrecked. Um, but anyway, so whatever you're planning to buy of Bitcoin, I would recommend doing it. Your odds of guessing right if you're waiting for a lower price as opposed to a lower price to buy, you're betting against 100 to 1 odds that instead of going up 500%, it will go down 5%. And again, even if the chances it goes down are, you know, 20, 30, 40%, the chances that makes sense or only makes sense if the probability that the price goes down, 5% is 99% chance. So if somebody said, Joel, I promise you there's a 99% chance the price will go down by 5% before it goes up by 500%, I would say, well, at least your odds are even. I mean, at least you got a 100 to 1 chance that it'll go down before it goes back up. And you're risking 100 to 1, 100 to 1 chance on the upside. So at least in that case, you got even odds. But that is not the case. The probability that you're going to miss out on the upside, the 100 to 1 odds that you're going to miss out on 500% upside, trying to get 5% on the downside, that 100 to 1 odds against you is just mathematically almost impossible that you will ever have favorable odds by waiting for a dip. Yeah, it doesn't mean you won't get a dip, and doesn't mean that you won't consider yourself super lucky if you do. It's just you're betting against the house, and the house wins when you do stuff like that. And so just don't do it. Almost everybody, you know, almost nobody wins. Just like almost nobody. I want to say nobody wins, but obviously somebody somewhere wins. It's not impossible that you could buy it at a lower price. It's just that in general, you lose. And the odds are massively, massively, massively against you pulling that off. So have a great day, everybody. Bitcoin's above $90,000 as I record this. And, sky's the limit. At any point, some additional good news could break related to Bitcoin for sovereign state, country adoption, major company adoption. Trump could pick Howard Lutnick to be Treasury Secretary, and the probability of a strategic Bitcoin reserve and the fact that that the United States might buy $1 million of Bitcoin, those probabilities will go way up. If Howard Lutnick is chosen, that can happen any minute. So what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the good news that makes Bitcoin run away from you? Or just buy Bitcoin with whatever you got, as much as you can, and sit on it as long as conceivably possible. That's how you don't lose money, and the upside is huge. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.